As has become sort of a tradition, I'd like to quote my favorite authors. I have built my talk upon their ideas, and those favorite authors are our students. So we asked our Year 12 students to write down their ideas about their experience in seeing their school growing up. We asked them to write anonymously, but many of them actually signed it. That's not even an important factor. So I have chosen some of their quotes or keywords, and I will be commenting on them. It was fairly difficult to choose the angle for my presentation today because everything has been multidimensional all the time. But as Oleg underlined, we are talking about growing up physically and quantitatively. Growth and development goes on continuously. And I'd like to quote one of our Year 12 students. The heading, the story of how a school grew up, may be misleading. It seems as if the school has grown up, but that's not the reality. The school keeps growing, and together with the school, people in it as well. And another quote, it is difficult to identify change while you're changing at the same time. What I mean that this school has grown together with me. It has changed over the years from a playground where I met my friends into an environment where everybody is studying, making an effort, and being worried. What I feel, the 12 years behind us, 13 years since founding the school actually, well, that's something that we could call embryonic stage, because we keep changing our structure. We are an ecosystem that is alive. Our organs are still being formed. So perhaps now we are quietly or step by step entering a stage where this very fast and sometimes wild development has to become more inward focused, with more focus on structures, organization, internal agreements. Well, looking back to the beginnings with a bit of nostalgia, I would like to say that first of all, the experience was an experience of being chosen, not in a very big sense, of course, but the school has arrived on its own, like sometimes a poem comes to a poet, and we just have had the wonderful possibility to witness the growth of the mustard seed, something that was tiny, really fragile in the beginning, and perhaps has retained some of this fragility till nowadays. Perhaps one initial point for us was to learn to read the God's handwriting. So the leitmotif has been our hope of not losing the love of God or His blessing. We have followed our yearning, and we have tried to follow where all of this has led us. So this has been a very, very lively journey for us. But once again, a quote from our students. So I haven't changed any of the quotes. I have vivid memories from the tower in Viru Street. I call it a tower because every morning we had to walk up 2 flights of stairs, and for the tiny me that seemed almost impossible. The luxury of using the lift was only available on one's birthday and was very much welcome. There was too little space, but it was cozy. I think we never really realized how valuable it was to have a view directly on the old town from our class window. We also had very luxurious outdoor break. We spent them in the public Harjumägi Green until one day we were not allowed to go there. We were told to have rooted flowers out of the flower bed, but I believe up to this day that we never did. We ate in our own classroom, later in the boys' classroom, which also was the atrium and the room for dance training, so multifunctional. I also remember the schoolhouse from Seely Street. We used the whole building then. The building was between apartment houses and behind the Maxima supermarket. This, of course, came with some trouble because neighbors who loved staying up late were not really happy about noisy child play during outdoor breaks, and teachers always tried to keep us away from Maxima. But the thing that I remember best was a Christmas evening in silence. Everybody did something in their own class in silence. We had a tea ceremony, and then at the end of the evening we came together to sing Christmas carols. Silence and keeping silence was one of the most valuable things in our school for us. While the school has grown, it has become less important, but I believe it's still there. From our new Kivimäe building, I remember a moment from our very first prayer. I remember looking at the atrium, and it seemed unbelievable, the place where our school had arrived. Of course, it is beautiful to see the brand new building of our own. It's not the most important thing about a school. What is important about a school are its soul, its principles, values, and ideology. As precisely as I can remember it, I'll try to say something that I have heard being said about our school. Our school's idea, values, and souls existed first. After that, we started building the body of the school around them. I believe that this is our school's secret of success and makes us special. This was from a young lady. And now something from a young man. When I started in year 9, then I didn't really notice anything special about the school, except for the fact that there were no big boys at school who might have been inclined to bully me. Of course, one of our big pluses is that if you have friends here, they are real friends. Through this school, I have gained several excellent friends. I would be willing to sacrifice my life for them, for theirs. I believe that this is the biggest compliment, to say that in the name of someone I could sacrifice myself. This doesn't necessarily need to be a morbid statement. It might be about saving one's face, saving someone's reputation, knowing that I'm not obliged to. For example, if my friend has not done their homework and I have done it, I can find a way to make the teacher be disappointed in me as well, to make sure that my friend doesn't feel alone. This kind of brotherhood, spirit of brotherhood, stands strong at school. Morning at prayer, I see boys from first grades quietly forming their friendships, and then I prayed to God that they could have friendships as strong as I have. Those boys don't know it yet, how their classmates will finally be those friends who will meet up every week, even in summer, to grill meat and live adventurous lives. If I could tell them something, I could ask them to always remember all for one and one for all. Looking at the figures, the story of growth. In 2013, when we had been operational for 4 months, our total balance sheet value was 117,000 euros. A few weeks back, it was 10.6 million euros. However, I'd like to underscore that changes in figures is not as important as the impact of the school on the lives of people, on their hearts. We started out in Vene Street, then in Viru Street, then in Mustamäe district, and now we are at Kivimäe. We started out with 33 children on 40 square meters. This 40 to 50 square meters in the table are a result of the fact that the health inspectors that came to us just asked us to find additional square meters anywhere so that we could get the permit, and we found them. And now our school building is more than 5,600 square meters. We have 23 kindergarten children, 109 preschool children, and 622 children in different departments of the school. And we have a lot of staff, 144 people. This includes people who come in for specialization classes in high school, teachers who come into our music club to teach instruments. This includes kitchen staff, for example, because we organize all of our own functions. All those people are employed by the school and not outsourced. What is special about our school? We keep hanging by a hair and walking on a knife edge. Perhaps what we could call it is opening up our hearts while walking on a very narrow path. Just once again a quote.
Мой путь в этой школе начался в гимназии, когда около моего дома появилось новое здание. Я почувствовала, что этот момент для меня был как бы кайросом. И по воле судьбы я начала учиться в этом здании. Школа Святого Иоанна — это 5-я остановка на пути моего образования. Я учился в разных школах, но эта школа самая уникальная и самая чудесная школа, где я когда-либо был. Когда я учился, это был первый поток учеников. То есть это было очень особенное время, потому что нас переполняла смелость и надежда, беспокойство, инновация. Мы все шли по непроторенному пути. Учеба в школе Святого Иоанна открыла мое сердце, хотя это взросление было непростым. Во время этого пути мне пришлось стоять, было много страхов и боли, но когда я смотрю на то, что со мной произошло, я понимаю, что это все было полезно. Я безгранично благодарен, что именно в этой школе я смог стать настоящей личностью. И несмотря на те испытания, которые, может быть, я для себя сам не выбрал, все это стоило результата. Безграничный поиск, 4 локации, наш путь продолжается, но мне кажется, что мы продолжаем идти. Да, наш фокус, он направлен вовнутрь, но все-таки духовная составляющая, она осталась той же. У нас были разные преподаватели, разные гости, которые смотрели, что происходит в нашей школе, и спрашивали,
sportlik vaim liikuda ja rännata aina edasi, kuigi ütleme, me ei näe seda enam nii selgelt, eks ole, et muutuvad meie aadressid või meie numbrid. Ja loen tsitaadi. Kui vaadata tagasi 11 aastale minu kogemusest selles koolis, siis on kerge juhtuma.
Looking back at the 11 years of my experience in this school, it is easy to categorize the journey by school buildings. There were several changes related to my personal logistics and the environment, but the school remained the same. Since the school kept changing at such a fast pace, changing school buildings didn't seem anything special. Every day, so many new things happened that you could never say that you're going to the same school tomorrow as you were going to today. Nowadays, it feels like that as well, although changes are perhaps happen a bit less often. How to measure being grown up when a school is a new school every day? What has always been important is starting from the grassroots level. We have based ourselves on the free will of people, and we have seen that it is an enormous force. And we also see that it becomes even greater if somebody is looking for the God's will and merges their own will to that. We have witnessed a number of miracles happening. We have given our best, but left the rest, and that means the most important things, to God. We have kept wondering at how this all could be possible. We had a very good recommendation a few years back from Professor Renos Papadopoulos, who will be joining us later via a video link from Great Britain. And the recommendation was to introduce a culture of confession. We have tried to create a school where it is okay to make mistakes and a school where mistakes are forgiven. A quote. Primary school for me was a time of lot of talk. I remember that those developmental interviews didn't really seem very useful to me. But looking back at them, those have been the most memorable moments in my school years. Changing schoolhouses was always a big change, and routines were never there. New teachers' classes and schoolhouses just introduced themselves very swiftly into my life. When I arrived here, I was a scared, anxious girl with no friends. It is wonderful in this school how helpful and caring everybody are. And another quote. In my previous school, communication was really scarce. Everybody grouped up in the classroom. We never cooperated. I very often felt alone, even while other people were inside the classroom. In our class in PGK, everybody communicated regardless of being very different. Over time, I stopped being the shy girl at the back of the class. I was an artist and a friend. Every day became a new beginning with opportunities and space to develop. Subjects that I used to be afraid of had become exciting because teachers wanted to teach us and cared about us understanding. Looking back, I see that choosing a new school was an important moment in my life. It taught me how important it was to step out of the comfort zone and take in change. I had not only acquired skills and knowledge, but also my own resilience. I am grateful to myself for having pulled myself together and made that decision. A part of our formula has been emptying ourselves, exhaustion, and being filled up to give more space to God and less space to ourselves. A quote: "The school has changed a lot and it's a bit scary, but then I see my classmates with whom I grew up together and my heart grows warm." I remember being in the old town, listening to street musicians through the window and knitting in handicraft classes, sitting on a sofa closely together while the teacher was reading a book to us. Once again, our building blocks: silence, opportunities, and being alive. A quote: "Through the storm of change that we have had to survive, the light from the very heart of our school has become more visible. I believe that us students, we understand the nature of this school better than anyone else, because even LIIVIKA has never been a student here, although she probably has learned a lot. When we were small, we never saw this light over the railings, just its reflection on everything else. The nature of the school was always present, but we never understood it. But now for all this light, we should need a sunblocker. And I think that our students, who have sometimes literally before and after dinner being heard quotes from Saint Sophronia and Saint Siluan, "Your brother is your life," and stand on the edge of precipice and take a cup of tea. And of course, who have read Catcher in the Rye, they sometimes do agree with Holden Caulfield's quote in their search for meaning. I keep picturing all those little kids playing some game in this big field of rye and all. Thousands of little kids and nobody's around, nobody big, except me. And I'm standing on the edge of some crazy cliff. What I have to do, I have to catch everybody if they start to go over the cliff. If they're running and they don't look where they're going. I have to come out from somewhere and catch them. That's all I do all day. I just be the catcher in the rye and all. I know it's crazy, but that's the only thing I'd really like to be. And above and beyond all, and to finish. Thanks. A quote. "Within the last 11 years, our school has changed a lot when you look at it. The building has become bigger, there are more students and teachers, and we have a high school section. Although I could write a long text about those changes, I would actually love to do the exact opposite or to underline what has stayed the same. This, I believe, is even more important because it gives us an understanding of what PJK is. The main constant in our history has been the feeling of community here. This is actually surprising to me, considering how large we have grown. But regardless of this, sitting in my own classroom or walking around in the building, I am feeling of being one with other students and teachers as I had in the first grade. I think this is a good sign, because just like somebody growing up shouldn't lose the imagination and love of a child, the school shouldn't lose its main values when growing. And then the last quote. In the beginning in Vene Street, I never understood the school was operating on meager resources. 2 classes and a wall between them. It was more than enough. We didn't seem to miss any teachers or any education. It was to a certain extent true. Everything was well, although we probably missed the effort behind all of that. Then the school started growing. We had more rooms, a new building, and I didn't still realize that we were not of a real school size. But it was more calm. Even 4th graders knew all the 1st graders. That's possibly why there was no bullying, because everybody was friends, at least my friends, and there were no older and stronger students who could have misused their strength. Finally, when we ended up in Seely Street, I started realizing that our school had slightly less resources than the schools where my friends went. I was perhaps even a bit disappointed, but looking back, I believe that this strengthened our sense of community. We had to make do with what we had. This never stopped us from having fun or learning, so in the long term it was really for the best. And then finally, when I entered high school, I understood that now we are of the size of a real school. So some things took time, and we sometimes were being tested a lot of things on, but it made life more interesting. Now in year 12, I see that problems have worked out on their own, and I can leave happily knowing that nobody else will ever gain the same experience that I had. Finally, lot of inspiration, free will, courage to discover, and joy of life to all of you. Thank you.